was God's hand.
Too. The Lord was showing me and revealing to me that we needed to do a pre-record, but I was already Friday morning and I thought it was too late. And then your team reached out to me and said, let's do a pre-record. That's never happened. So I knew that was God bringing us together for something very prophetic and very powerful for this show to go on this week, even though I was out of town.
Yeah, as I said before we went in, and usually we don't get a chance to talk before because I'm usually just up until the second getting notes from the generals. But we threw the generals off a little bit this week. They don't know it.
No, but I know they'll enjoy what they're going to hear because there's so many prophetic details that God is giving out of what the enemy's up to. And I mean, some of them are like, wow. I was like, when I heard these prophetic words, I could not wait to give them out, let alone let the generals and you hear what God was saying, because it's pretty, he's already giving so many powerful words, but this was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I just heard those words come out. Like, it was so powerful. And God is just giving more details. The closer we're coming to the explosive part of where we're at, and the more of these people coming down, the more details he's giving out.
Wow, there's a lot coming out. There was reports over the weekend that a couple senators, indictments are coming on senators, U.S. senators. So that's coming. You got the P. Diddy stuff getting bigger and bigger. More of that's going to be popping out. I heard some more names on that. You got Epstein getting deeper. You had James O'Keefe exposing through Pam Bondi. These are not just underage people at Epstein Island. These are sick, young children, and just horrific. I heard some stuff last week again about how evil these people truly are, and it's sickening. But on a positive note, we're going to open up this Monday with the Dow futures up over 1,000 points because it looks like President Trump has a deal with China.
China is definitely going to bow its knee, whether it thinks it's going to fully or not. But China is not in a deal in a place where they can really mess with the United States of America, because judgment is really hitting China hard. They're going to have issues with politically, and with their government. They're going to have issues financially. There's going to be a major shaking in China.
Yeah, and one of President Trump's messages over the weekend is he does it, as you know, things in comms. He had the word reset, and many people are looking for that word reset. Reset. What is it? It's the Babylonian system coming down and his new system coming up. And over the weekend, I was told again by a really reliable source, and I think I've mentioned this before, and people thought I was crazy, but I've been told by two really reliable sources that she is the head of China, is different than the CCP, that he secretly has been working with President Trump and President Vladimir Putin to bring down the globalists and bring down the Babylonian system. So I heard that again this weekend.
I do have some prophecies on Russia and Putin. You'll enjoy hearing that after I just heard you say that. So, and again, all these were pre-recorded last week. So I don't know when all this information came out, but God has given me prophetic words. He gave me like 8 or 9 in a very short period of time, like 2 or 3, 4 days. And one of them was regarding Putin and how Putin has been targeted, and how Putin has a lot of information that he can use to take down some of the globalists. So.
Yes, he does. So which prophetic word should we start in?
Okay, well, let's just see here. There's so many of them, so I'm going to try to get out. Let's just see here. This one right here. I'll start with this one about arrests being made. Because this one, you just said something about senators being arrested.
Yep.
Now, this is the one I think you're going to get a kick out of, too, because something that was hidden in the White House during Biden's days, God has it in his prophetic word, and it's referencing like skeletons somewhere. So I will get to that one. But this prophetic word is called, your enemy's treasonous acts will be exposed and arrests will be made. Now it says, your foundations that you have built in this nation and every country are all based upon lies. Oh, sorry. I'll read the first paragraph. And it says, for I, the Lord, this day am calling out the liars in Washington establishment, the liars in the media, the liars in Wall Street, and the liars in the global government. Your foundation you had built in this nation and every country are all based upon lies. Your lies are catching up with you as your foundations are crumbling under your feet when truth will be told that you can't stop. Truth on election fraud when it pours out, and it all will. The truth on 9/11 when it pours out, and it all will. The truth on January 6th when it pours out, and it all will. The truth on Epstein when it pours out, and it all will. The truth on JFK when it all pours out, and it all will. The truth on the attempted assassination against President Trump when it pours out, and it all will. The truth about money laundering schemes, dark financial systems will all be exposed and will cause a major explosion that you will not recover from. Every dark secret the deep state has covered up with the lies and deception is coming out. No matter how much your enemies have tried to cover up and destroy evidence in any way they could, truth still will bring them down and shatter your enemies where they stand. Now here he goes talking about the Biden. The Biden's lies and cover-up is soon about to be break wide open. The truth of his mental decline, the truth of his crimes, the truth regarding Hunter, the truth regarding stolen elections, the truth on every tie he has with China and Ukraine, and the biggest truth of all is who the Biden really is. Some know his true identity, and the truth will not be stopped. Not only did Joe Biden not win the 2020 election, it wasn't even him as resident in the White House. The people who carried out this deception in any way they covered up the truth will be exposed. Then he goes on and says the major proof of this deception will come out so the world will know the full truth. At lengths the establishment went and the globals would go to steal a country. Every person involved in the Biden cover-up will be exposed and treason will be their end. Many in Washington know or now in times past have committed treason on some level, and every one of them will be judged by me, says the Lord. Then he goes on and says, there is more to come about the Biden administration. There are people now willing to risk their lives to tell the truth on what was going on with the Biden and with Kamala. Many dark secrets hidden in the White House during their residencies will be brought to light. Yes, even a coffin that was in the basement and who was in it. There was people who found this and they kept it quiet until now. No matter where they buried it, where they hid the skeletons, and where the secrets are now, will no longer stay secret. And Biden's true medical records are about to be released. So many secrets, so many lies, but the truth destroys them all. So before I go on, I kind of want to get your reaction to that. This is just part of this prophecy. But when he goes on the truth about the coffin in the basement, I think I've had a prophecy regarding this coffin before. And I remember hearing something about this, but again, when he's bringing this up, that means it's about to be released.
Was there dirt on the coffin?
Hold on. It doesn't specifically say about dirt, but it says it was in the basement.
I heard there was a coffin in the Rose Garden, and they took it out before they did that cleanup. So I don't know if that's connected or not.
I don't know. But there's a coffin, and there was, at one point, a coffin in the basement, and somebody knew who it was, and they kept it quiet until now. So we'll see who that is and who was keeping it a secret.
Well, there was more information, too, on Mark Milley, General Milley. Pete Hegseth is talking about demoting him, taking his classified status away. Also, there was reports, and I think Roger Stone tweeted this out as well, that Mark Kelly, the senator, owned a balloon from China. So this is going to get very interesting. Remember the balloons? I don't know if the balloon that went over our country is connected to Mark Kelly, but Mark Kelly has a connection to China and balloons. And what else did you say? The 2020 election. Interesting enough, I was approached this weekend by somebody in Maricopa County that they believe can break this whole thing wide open in Maricopa County, then Arizona, and then all of it. So the 2020 election is going to get looked at very closely.
Do you know how many times that God has talked about Maricopa County? And he said, I think he's at one prophecy, he said something about like they had the key. I don't exactly know what that meant, but I think he said that they had the key or something like that. And he talked about warning the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. He had proof on them, and they were all going to be coming down. And he said that Arizona and was it dominoes were going to fall or something. It was Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and then I don't remember because these prophecies were quite some time ago. So I got to kind of remember. But he has talked about Arizona. He has specifically talked about Maricopa County. But again, everything about the 2020 lie. whether it's Joe Biden and who he really is, whether it's how they stole this election, who all was involved in this is like so massively involved in so many different people. Plus you have the January 6th on top of it. Plus you have all these impeachments. It is just insanity. How, like, even what God said in this prophecy, what great lengths that our enemies would go to steal a country. And that's what he said. He keeps saying residency with Biden and Kamala. He never says presidencies because they weren't rightfully the president and vice president of this country. But he said he would reveal who he really is. Remember, he's been talking and saying he's the Biden for the last 3 or 4 years. He won't call him Joe. But he did say Joe did not win the election. So at some point in time, there must have been the real Joe Biden that was running for president. I don't know how long it lasted, but I don't know. Ever since the 2020 election happened, he always calls him the Biden.
Yeah, there was more talk over the weekend, too. I don't know if it was President Trump, but people in the know about the auto pen. The auto pen is not over in these documents that he signed. Why would you do an auto pen if you could sign your signature anyway? Especially in really important ones like pardons. So
I know. And wasn't there something that came out that there was 2 auto pens and not just one? Is that typical to have 2 different ones?
No, not that I know of. That's, again, why President Trump, I can't put my notes up because you might see something I'm writing down, but when President Trump does an executive order, he puts it up like that and shows that, hey, I'm signing this. He did that a long time ago from the get-go. So I think he knew since the get-go that this is going to break wide open.
And wasn't there something else about Biden, and there was something that just came out over the weekend. Like I said, I already had these prophecies out about his mental decline. And of course, that's going to break wide open because the news media is also going to be implicated in that because they were hiding all this information, knew that he was not capable of being president, and they hid that, plus everybody in the White House. And who was using that auto pen? Who was given that permission when he was on the beach? Who was making all these decisions? That's another key. And obviously, we're going to find out it was Obama and his shadow government. But who was really in the White House actually running the country? And we're going to find those things out. And again, everything that they've done was treason. Not only was stealing the election, but literally all this fraud. Even if Biden would have been the rightful president at the time, everything they were doing during his presidency was a complete fraud and farce because he wasn't the one making these decisions. He wasn't the one signing these pardons and executive orders. It was somebody else doing it. This is major, major, major issues for the establishment once all this comes out. And it's going to destroy the establishment and the shadow government that's been in D.C.
Yeah, the name I keep hearing is Susan Rice. Keep an eye on that name because she's behind it.
I have a prophecy on Susan Rice as well, and he's mentioned a lot. He mentioned a lot. God has mentioned a lot of people in Obama's administration, and she was one of them. And he called her out, and I think he's called her out a couple different times. I don't have all those prophecies up right now, but he has called them up, and people can look on the website. Susan Rice has definitely been mentioned in prophecy. And if we were live right now, my phone would be blowing up because I'd have my team out there and they'd be sending these things to me so I could read it to you. So that's one, thing that we can't do. We don't have the generals texting in or my team texting to help us out. But either way, the truth is still coming out and it's still fun to hear it.
Yeah, there's more information, too, came out, speaking of Obama, about the chef. Stuff that I didn't know about the chef. The chef was this is the chef that died at his mansion, Obama's mansion. He was the chef in the White House, so he saw a lot of things. He was, I guess, a professional swimmer and a paddleboarder. And where he drowned was only 3 feet of water. We talked about that a little bit last week, but I'm told again that this is going to blow up and they're not going to stop the truth of this chef. What really happened to this chef?
As soon as I heard that report come out regarding the chef, the first thing I said was he was Epstein. He was suicided, just like all these other ones are. That was definitely not an accidental death. They're going to find out more and more. That's what God calls Obama in a lot of different prophecies. He calls him a murderer.
Yep.
I think it just goes far beyond just this cook and this chef. He's going to be implicated in a lot of different murders and connected to, just kind of like the Clintons are, which God has mentioned them in many different prophecies regarding murderers and attached to their name. Obama is the same way. He's got a lot of people that he targeted and was shutting them up because the truth of not only Michelle, the truth of his marriage, the truth of the shadow government. There was a lot of people he silenced to keep his identity. And of course, the person that we know back a long time ago, she was the one who did all of the Hawaiian birth certificates, and she knew that his was not right. His was fake, and she had proof of it. She was coming in the States from Hawaii, and the airplane crashed, and she supposedly was the only one who died. So again, all of these things are done by our enemies to silence the people who are trying to tell the truth. And that's why it's very important for us all to pray for these whistleblowers, especially like James O'Keefe and his group, that they're trying everything they can to get the truth out, what's going on. We have to pray for these people because their enemy is trying to silence them because they know truth destroys every lie.
Yeah, I know you've had a lot of prophetic words about whistleblowers. They are coming out. I've known 3 or 4, and usually they will blow me up if this is live too. Not only do I get it from generals, but I get it from whistleblowers too. But there's more coming out. It's just expanding. There's no way you're going to stop them from talking now. There's just too much information and the tide's turning. Also keep an eye on Act Blue. It's not over yet. They're going to be able to directly tie Act Blue to senators and people of Congress, money laundering, fraud, RICO charges. It's all coming down. They got them.
Do you know how many prophecies I've had regarding money laundering? And God just had, over the last weekend when I was having all these, or a week ago, it was a week from this weekend. And I was getting all these prophecies because they were like the 3rd and the 4th of May. And one of the things he said was campaign fraud and money laundering schemes. And so that would tie in to Act Blue because I don't know much about Act Blue, but wasn't Act Blue where the Democrats raised all of their money and gave it out to different campaigns, like different Democratic campaigns? So one of the things that God had, and I'll have to try to find this, it's really hard to find it on just one screen. Usually I have like 3 screens pulled up here. But he talked about, let me see here. Here we go. Let's see here. I got to find it because, and then he had something about France and Macron, and there was just that broke over the weekend about Macron, and apparently he was doing some drugs on, was it a train or an airport or something? Train. I just had a prophecy about his removal once again.
Well, this video is going viral right now. I just can't believe somehow the reporters came in, caught him off guard, and Macron and the Prime Minister of the UK and the Chancellor of Germany, all 3 of them were there, and all 3 were doing it because Macron took they believe it's drugs and put it under the table and didn't do a very good job of hiding it. The German Chancellor took the syringe and tried to hide it. It's gone viral.
There's so many things right now. God's been talking about leaders coming down. He's been talking about all this money, and he's been saying that money was going to be their downfall. And again, even with these drugs, if he was caught literally doing these drugs, that would be for his, I would think. Now, I don't know, France's law, but if you have a president doing drugs, making deals, I don't know what all those 3 were talking about. I think they were talking about dealing with Russia maybe, or dealing with that Russia-Ukraine peace talk or something. When you're dealing with a politics like that, I don't know what their law is, but I would think that he would break a law by using cocaine when he's making these type of decisions that would interfere with other different countries, and that could potentially start World War III if you make the wrong decision.
Well, fascinating enough, this is like 2 or 3 days after he doubled down and said, we're going all in on Islam in France. And
he did?
He did. He said, we're doubling down on Islam. And if Benjamin Netanyahu comes to France, we will arrest him.
Wow.
2 days. Well, 2 days later.
Not really surprised that God is going after him then, because Genesis 12:2. Those who bless you, I will bless. Those who curse you, I will curse. It's Genesis 12:2-3. Anybody who goes after Israel has to deal with God. And so when you are going after, and another thing I think that France not only is going after Israel, but they have mocked God. Just remember what back with the Olympics and what they were doing was mocking the Last Supper. God, because I'm going to read this prophecy about France since we're talking about it. But here's about the one about Macron. Now this is from, I heard 3 on May 3rd. This was the third one. Woe to Emmanuel Macron, you are a deceiver, manipulator, and a murderer. Your lies are soon to catch up to you. You have tried over and over to have your way, to hide who you are, to lie to everyone, to get your way and what you desire. You're helping to bring destruction to the United States. You help steal elections. You've been working behind closed doors under the radar with Barack Obama to bring destruction to this country and any nation that resists a globalist reset. You are another puppet with a dark past and dark secrets and skeletons in your closet. You don't think you will ever be exposed because the elitists have your back. You've done their dirty work and completed assignments or attempted, but have failed at many. You truly don't think it matters either way whether you fail or succeed because you have made deals with them and they have made deals with you. So then you are more than safe, but you're not because of me. You are a snake that is soon about to be removed. The snake pit you have been controlling in your nation will be exterminated. You have many secrets hidden in your soil of your country that this country does not want out in the open. Your dirty secrets and plan you agreed to help with bring down my David will all be exposed. France, your government and your nation is about to shake violently for the sin and for the filth that's in your nation. France, this is a warning from the creator of heaven and earth. Repent and pray for your nation. Survival and freedom from the death grip that is holding you ever so tightly. That could bring total devastation to your nation. A great spiritual shaking is coming to your land to heal what has been broken and to free you from the deception that has been holding you captive. Your government is soon about to pay for the acts against you and my nation of the United States. And proof is coming for the 2020 was stolen, and your government had a hand in helping Joe Biden steal my nation from its freedom and its rightful president. And then he goes on and says, my children, every nation who took part in stolen election in their own country and to help stealing or trying to steal elections in America and Israel are about to pay a very high price. Governments will crumble globally when the truth hits the airwaves.
Wow. That probably ties into why those three were together, the Ukraine, UK, France, Germany. I know they were there to meet with Ukraine. By the way, Zelensky's going to meet with Putin this week for peace. President Trump, Pakistan and India, it looks like there's going to be a ceasefire and peace too. But all three of those countries, United Kingdom, that was Project Folsom that they spied on President Trump. They had their hands in a stolen election as well. Germany, physically, I'm told, was a place that they intercepted the server from on the 2020 election. And then France is part of it as well. So it's all going to come out. There's nowhere to run. And speaking of that, go ahead.
It was before I heard this prophecy, I didn't realize that France was involved.
Yeah.
Not until I heard it. So because I hadn't heard anything about France. I've heard about like China and stuff, but I didn't hear about France. This is the first time I heard that France was connected. And maybe I heard it before. I don't remember. But it was just kind of shocked me that I didn't know. I mean, I knew Macron was, a puppet, but I didn't really think he was working that closely with Obama, but apparently he is.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember who was trying to call him out? Oh, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer keeps bringing this up. Nothing happened. That picture of Obama when Joe Biden was president and walked into the United Kingdom. Yeah. And nobody ever did anything about that with a smile on his face. That was treason.
So that was in the UK, right?
That was in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, because wasn't that, why is that treason exactly? Because he wasn't the president, but he was acting on behalf of the president?
Well, that would technically be the Logan Act, but what I'm told they were talking about was to stop President Trump from coming back into office. That's what it was all about.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I knew it was something to do with the Logan Act, and I'm like, but I didn't know exactly what he was there for. But it makes sense that he was there to try to stop President Trump.
Can you imagine this? You know, they panicked going into 2020 and they stole the election. Then they had January 6th to cover up the stolen election. Can you imagine the panic they'd have after all that and more stuff comes out and then President Trump wins in 2024? Their panic went from here to off the chart.
God said they were in panic and they were in disarray.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything they worked so hard for and everything they were doing, and nothing is working, and it's actually going in the wrong direction for them, and it's hurting them more. And you got to think President Trump has all these different people and all these different agencies that are uncovering all the things that they're covering up or destroying. Now, I don't know. I didn't get to watch it, but it was General Flynn came out with something over the weekend about Epstein. I don't know exactly what it is, but he had something that came out. I think he was on with Benny Johnson over the weekend. So I'm curious to see what he had to say about it. But Epstein is a huge thing. That's the reason why they're going to great lengths to hide it. The reason why they're going to great lengths to hide the elections, because you got to think of it. You find out that these people stole the election. How many senators are not real? How many congressmen and women are not real? How many judges are not real? This is explosive, and this will tear them apart, and they will not be able to recover from this for sure.
Yeah, and this is not just Democrats. This is rhinos, too. That's why you see somebody like Tillis of North Carolina push hard and stop Ed Martin from becoming the head of U.S. Attorney General in D.C. because he wants to continue to cover up January 6th. All this is connected, and once one goes, it's all over. It's going to show. They stole the election. They had treason on January 6th, and when they come out with what we've mentioned before, what they really wanted to do, they were going to have executions at January 6th. They wanted this people in the House to die to make it really pennant on President Trump. And then last week, Joe Biden, I think this was after our Wednesday with Julie Green, was on The View, and he was muttering and stumbling, couldn't say anything, but he then doubled down and said that the U.S., January 6ers killed 5 Capitol Police officers. Well, that's not true. That never happened. But they continue to double down on that. Why? Because they're very nervous that this January 6th is coming out, and there's nothing they can do to stop it.
There isn't anything they can do to stop it. I think it's funny that he was on The View. No, I didn't see what he was doing or what he said, but I'm sure it was a complete disaster if it came to Biden being out in public. Because I did see an article like a week or so ago. He was out somewhere doing something, and somebody put out the Democrats just want him to go away and stay out of the public eye. And it's funny to me how all of a sudden, out of the last couple months since the election, inauguration, he was like silent. And why all of a sudden is he coming out? And when he's coming out, he sounds even worse than he was mentally than he was before. What is his whole entire purpose? I don't know if he knows exactly, but I think if somebody's pushing him, probably Joe Biden's probably pushing him to do stuff, because it's like a revenge tour, I think, for the Democrats, but for pushing him out. But there's something to do with that, and I think the more he's out in public, the more God talked about that he was going to give himself away on live TV. This is another example of reason why he was silent forever. He's coming back, and he's worse than he was before. God's not done. And I told people, even if he is not president anymore or resident in chief anymore, God was still going to take him out, and he was still going to fall in front of the world. So, I mean, he keeps going out in public and doing all these statements, and doing all these live shows. God is going to bring him down. So, I mean, you can't get away with stealing an election and stealing God's country and think that God's just going to give you a pass just because you're not president anymore. It's not going to happen. He's going to be judged for it.
Yeah, and Jill had to step in and bail him out in that speech, and he just kind of sat there. There was also something big that was compared to January 6th. Here, January 6th, where none of the Capitol Police officers were killed. That's a continued lie. After that, The View said that the fake news continued that false narrative. They know it's wrong, and they keep saying these Capitol Police. But there was a congresswoman this week that was caught on camera, an ICE camera, assaulting an ICE officer around terrace. An ICE facility. I can't remember her name. I have it recorded somewhere else, but this is not going to be good for them because she's caught red-handed and saying, don't you know who I am?
No, and it's funny to me. They're going to great lengths to say these M13, whatever, MS-13 gang members. Why? Why are they going to this great lengths? Wasn't there like the New Jersey governor or somebody that also was arrested for trying to interfere with ICE arrest or something? Was that right?
Yeah, a mayor and some.
Oh, a mayor.
Yep.
Okay, a mayor. All right. So I knew it was somebody had to do with New Jersey. But why are they doing this? Why are they trying to protect these gang members? Why are they going? I mean, these people are rapists. They're murderers. They're so evil. Why are they going to great lengths to save these people? Because they know if they did not, these people would turn on them. They have made a deal with these terrorists. The Democrats and the establishment have made a deal with these terrorists. God said they did. And because they're not getting what they so desired, of course, the promise was that they're going to keep President Trump out of office and they could keep doing what they were doing. And they're not able to do that. And he's kicking them out. And they're saying, if you don't save us, we're going to come after you. And we're going to start either killing you or they're going to come out and expose them. So either way, the Democrats are in trouble, and the establishment is. And that's the reason why they're going to these great lengths to save these murderers and rapists. I mean, that is the only explanation you can think of. Why would you try to interfere with these people? Just let them go. But of course, they have stake in all this, and they have to protect these people because they're forced to. But these deals are being broken between this MS-13 and the establishment, and it's going to get very, very ugly and very bad for the establishment very quickly with these terrorists, because the terrorists are also going to turn on them.
Yeah, one of the words you said, the Lord told you, was disarray.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm told, but not just disarray, but they are they're turning on each other. And a good example of that is just this weekend, James Carville, who we talked about, I think last Wednesday, said that the Democrats need to die on this hill supporting MS-13. Why would you say that? I mean, he's supposed to be an expert on politics. Die on a hill standing up for terrorists is what you just said. But he came out over the weekend and said Omar needs to go. I've never heard him call out anyone in the Democrats ever and say this person needs to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
God said in several prophecies in the last several years, they were all going to turn on each other. They were going to turn on each other to save themselves. Because once they're in the state of panic and they're in so much fear because all these things are not working, they're going to start turning on each other, not knowing who is the one who's going to turn on them first. And so they're going to try to turn on their neighbor first before it gets turned on them. So again, they're saving their own rear ends, but it's not going to work because God even says over and over and over that he has it all. The enemies are right now in a state of panic and disarray. He keeps using the example of 2 Chronicles 20, when God's people didn't even have to physically fight in that battle and the enemy turned on each other and they killed themselves. All God's people had to do was hear the prophetic word from Elijah. They heard those prophetic words, and that actually heard those prophetic words, they started praising and worshiping God. And as they were praising and worshiping God and thanking him, because Jehoshaphat made sure that they did a prayer and a fast, and they were paying attention to God and not freaking out about this great army that was coming against them, God set up ambushes, and the enemies turned on each other. And so when God's people got up to that part of the war, all they did was take away the spoils of war. They didn't have to fight in it at all. God said our enemies are turning on each other. We're not going to have to physically fight in this battle. All we have to do is stand, pray, hold, and never surrender, hold the line, and keep thanking God for all that he's doing, and God's going to take care of our enemies.
Amen. Amen. We mentioned earlier, again, I want to clarify this, that there's so many attacks on Israel today. Conservatives going after Israel, people that you wouldn't think would attack Israel. When we talk about this, we're talking about, you mentioned Genesis 12. We're talking about biblical Israel, the remnant of Israel, the Abrahamic covenant, Davidic covenant. There's talk out right now that President Trump has turned his back on Benjamin Netanyahu. He's heading to the Middle East as we speak, and there is no deal planned publicly right now with Benjamin Netanyahu. That could be a play. That could be there could be a million reasons for that. All I know is that I had a prophetic dream that Benjamin Netanyahu was dirty and he was cleansed. I'm not sure. And he was in the prime minister's office when he was cleansed. He's in the prime minister's office now. And I go back to October 7th. I was told from 2 Israeli generals that you can't get any closer to Benjamin Netanyahu than these 2 generals. That only 1 of 3 people could allow that October 7th attack. Somebody within the Israeli government allowed that. 1 of 3 people. And at the time, some of them thought it was Benjamin Netanyahu. But as of today, I'm assured it's not him. They know who it is.
Yeah, and I'm not really worried. And I think, again, President Trump is playing chess.
Yep.
And if there's rumors that he is not working with Benjamin Netanyahu right now, some of these Middle Eastern people he's going with to these countries are going to be more willing to work with him. Again, he knows exactly what pieces to play and when. We are praying that he's directed by Almighty God. But again, yes, anytime we're talking about Israel, we are talking about biblical Israel. And I've also had prophecies that God was bringing Israel and the United States hand in hand. That President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu were going to be hand in hand, bringing these countries back together the way God always meant them to be. So I don't see that there's going to be a massive rift between the 2 of them. And they might have had disagreements. And something might be going on, and Trump's saying, hey, you do have people in your midst, so I'm going to stay away from you until you can figure it out. I don't really know. All I know is that God showed me that they were going to be hand in hand, bringing the United States and Israel together.
Well, one of the people that are out to get Benjamin Netanyahu is a former prime minister, Olbard. I'm mispronouncing his name. He was prime minister a few years back. He is arch enemy of Benjamin Netanyahu. But just put this in perspective, what he said this weekend. This Olbard said the Palestinians should have their own state in Gaza. This is coming from a former prime minister of Israel. That is not biblical Israel.
That is not, no, I can't even at all, because again, if you think about it, Israel is way bigger of a nation than it is right now.
Yep.
Over the past several years, they've had to keep giving away and giving away and giving away, and including Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is supposed to be part of Israel. It's not supposed to be given to the enemies, and it's not. Palestine is not a country. It's not a state. There might be people. This goes back to the Philistines. Mm-hmm. They're descendants of the Philistines. The Philistines have always tried to go after Israel and the Israel's country and their land. So this is not anything different. The enemy, there's nothing new under the sun. And so what we have to do is pray that biblical Israel, that's why we always pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We're supposed to pray for biblical Israel to be led by Almighty God and protected, and that they get what's rightfully theirs back.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Some say save Israel for last, because Israel might be one of the most darkest. And again, there's nothing new under the sun. Look through the entire Bible. All the Israeli kings were worshiping other gods. They were evil, trying to kill God's prophets. And nothing's different from today. You got to cleanse that Babylonian system completely out. And it's when he said the word reset, he's not kidding. There's a financial reset coming, and we will have a golden age. There's no question about it. Doesn't mean we're quite there yet. I don't know how many more months, but what he's pulled over the weekend is pretty amazing with China and India, Pakistan, and more. We'll be right back after this quick break. All right, we're back with Wednesdays with Julie Green. Since last Wednesday, Prince Andrew, the tape came out on Prince Andrew that Prince Andrew did have a bad situation with the Epstein Island, which he lied about. Also, Pam Bondi talking about with kids, just sickening. And also, we found out more of the 17 scandals. The IRS is spying on January 6ers. So more and more of this thing are getting peeled back for truth.
God is saying these are the days that the avalanche of truth was going to destroy the enemy's dam of lies. And so you can see their foundations are crumbling because their foundations are based on lie. All these different lies. Well, God's truth sets people free. That's why it's so important for us to keep continually praying and commanding that the enemies be exposed and God's truth is told and the truth will be revealed, because God said in his word several different times, especially in the book of Luke 8 and Luke 10:12 or 12, 12:2. It says everything hidden will be made known. Everything hidden. It doesn't mean that some things that the enemies are hiding are going to be kept hidden. He said everything that is hidden will be made known. They can't hide these things from God. They can't stop God, because there's enough scripture that says, who can stay God's hand? So that means who can stop God's hand from moving? They can't. So if you look up biblically, that's why when God gives me these prophecies, he always gives me revelation and teachings that go along with these prophecies. So people can understand where this ties to now, where God is saying now, but also how it ties to the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that was based upon a lie is going to be revealed. Our enemies are in for a lot of dark days, because God is saying the avalanche of truth is coming, and it's going to destroy everything that they hold dear. So.
Yeah, that avalanche has already started. I mean, it's hitting on every single level, with tariff deals and arrests coming. January 6th, IRS scandal. I mean, these scandals every one of the 17 scandals are in play. 9/11, Benghazi. There was more information about the Clinton scandals come over the weekend. The Clintons are in deeper trouble. A whistleblower came forward on the Clinton scandals. So
what was
a lot
that?
going. I didn't get into the details of it, but there is a lawsuit going on in, I think it's in Minnesota still. And you said something about France, too. That reminded me something about Islam in France. I can't remember what that was. It'll come to me. But I heard something about that this weekend, too. But there's a lot.
Just mentioned the Clintons again. And he said every death that was linked to them and all the crimes. And again, you got to look back at the Clinton Foundation. That is going to be explosive. The Clinton Foundation was a money laundering scheme. And God said the money, follow the money, find the truth. And he said for a lot of these people, the money would be their end, because money is going to expose all the dirty things that they have been up to. So he just mentioned the Clintons again, I think about a week or so ago. And he said everything that they are connected to, everything they're hiding, all the money, all their accounts, everything was going to be emptied out, and everything was going to be exposed to the Clintons. And they were no longer going to be able to hide, and full justice would be served with those two.
Yeah, that's the Clinton Foundation. There's Clinton scandals separate that are not a part of the foundation. Clinton Foundation's it impacts, I think, what was I told, 60 different countries. This will tie into Haiti and ties into Epstein Island, too. Haiti's not too far from Epstein Island. And I'm told there was a direct path from Haiti to Epstein Island for the children. And then we talked about submarines last week, too. Submarines were used to get in and out as well. This whole thing is what's truly amazing to me is how all of this is connected. Every single piece of it is connected.
You know, God kept saying, watch the waters. And he said that they were concealing things under the water. He's mentioned, I don't know how many times, about submarines. He's mentioned about cargo ships. So all is connected with the water. Somehow, some way, it's connected with the water. It's connected to all these different things. Child sex trafficking is involved in a lot of different things in governments all around the world, and the deep state, and also globalists. Child sex trafficking, adrenochrome, always child not only sex trafficking, but child sacrifice. All these things that they have done with children is disgusting. It is absurd. It's appalling. It is hard. It's going to be hard for people to hear all the ways that they have hurt and injured children and what they have done for this global reset. They had to do these sacrifices in order for this demonic control. Remember, Jesus sacrificed for us.
Yep.
In order to get things from the devil, they have to sacrifice to the devil. Mm-hmm. So again, that's Allah. That's Satan. And so when people are sitting there thinking about this, they had to do all these different sacrifices. Blood is a key. And remember what happened with Cain and Abel. He said, your brother's blood cries out to me. All this blood of all these different children, all these different people who have been killed and martyred for the truth, God is saying all this blood has been speaking to him, and judgment is going to rain down. And it's going to be very harsh and very hard for a lot of these people. The more they've been involved, the more they are going to be judged. And I didn't know where Epstein Island was. I had no idea it was so close to Haiti.
Yep.
There is so much demonic that goes on in Haiti. Very, very demonic things that go on in Haiti. I feel so bad for the Haitian people. It's very dark and evil, spiritually there.
Well, you mentioned what they've done with the blood. The firstborn. This is why this bloodline. I have one of my notes here. Bloodline. Yeah, bloodline. Child sacrifices, sacrificing even through their own bloodline. Why some of these rulers married men that are supposed to be women, and why all this transgender is happening. I was told over the weekend there's a lot of pictures of stars and NBA, all kinds, and their children are transgender. That's part of it. It's part of the initiation. They have to do that. And I'm like,
really?
You can't get any sicker than that, because the God that they worship is a God of no sex. Their God can be either sex. It's just sick.
These actors and athletes, they actually have to sacrifice their basically children to this whole entire transgender thing.
That's what I'm told. That's why you see every one of them doing it. And not everyone, the ones that are going to be most involved, that are going to come down hard on them from the stuff being behind the scenes, you watch them. They all have that in their family. And you wonder, why? Where do they go? How did they do that? Some of them had to take it to the extreme where they'd actually have to kill their firstborn.
People like... I thought Megan Fox was one of them.
She one
had
of them.
All three of her boys dressing like girls.
Yep. And
I know she's like a witch or something. I know the guy that she was with for a long time. I can't think of his name. He's a gangly type of guy with a lot of tattoos. Kelly or something.
Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah. Machine
Gun Kelly. There you go. He very demonic. Very demonic. You can look at some of his tattoos. They're very demonic. They're Luciferians. They like to worship Satan. But there's witch, and she's a witch. I'm almost positive that somebody told me. But you can tell it, and you can see it in their eyes. You can see what they were doing. But what they were doing to those three little boys. I mean, these boys were like 1 and 2 years old. You can't tell me that they wanted to dress like little girls. That was forced upon them, and it's very sick that a lot of these people are doing that. I didn't know that was something that they had to do in order to sacrifice basically their kids. It makes sense now, because I couldn't understand why these people would essentially push this on their children. As a parent, you're supposed to protect your children.
Right.
Why would you, even when my child said something like that, I would be desperately praying over them. Because that's confusion. Satan is the author of confusion. If you don't know what gender you are, that is demonically driven by Satan himself. Because obviously there is only two genders, and I know I'll probably get written in for that, but it's true, and I will say it. There is two genders, male and female. As well, you look at all animals, they're male and female. There isn't anything in between. And you think about what they're doing to these little kids. No, they're sacrificing them. Which, if you think about Baal, they sacrificed their children to Baal, which that's abortion.
Yep.
That's also what that is. So again, we have to really be praying for these children that are, with these people in Hollywood and these athletes, because these people need freedom from what they are being sacrificed to.
And they can't get out. In many cases, they can't get out. But it goes back to, it really dawned on me. We were talking about Israel in the break. It really dawned on me 2 years ago when we were going through Samaria. We were going through Ahab and Jezebel's palace. And before you could even go into the ancient palace of Ahab, there was Moloch. You had to sacrifice a child before you went into his palace. And I thought, you know what? They've been doing this forever. It just was hidden. It's all through the Bible. It's always been about the young ones, and it's always been about the blood.
Yes, it's always been. It's always been. You got to think, how many times? Look at Pharaoh. What did Pharaoh do? Pharaoh also killed the young, especially when he got too afraid of the Israelites because there was too many of them. The first thing he did was kill people from 2 years old and younger. And then, of course, when they heard about a deliverer, he killed more children and he gave them to the gators. There's so many times that Satan has gone. King Herod, when he found out about Christ and about the Messiah, he also killed 2 years age and younger of men. Men have also, babies, young boys, and men have always been sought. What is right now the number one people that these people are going after, these globalists and the leftists and stuff, the socialists? They're going after white men. They're going after children. They're going after these things because, again, they can't. They're also going after bloodline. Bloodline is very, very important to them. Satan has always gone after the blood of Christ. Yep. Always, 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 always. Why do you think that God had to do that reset in Noah's day? Because Satan was distorting the bloodline of human beings with the Nephilim because they were having in relations with demonic entities. These women were. So that's how you got these Nephilim. That's why they were 9 to 12 feet tall, and that's why they were distorted. They were distorted humans. They were not fully human. They were human and they were demonic. God had to protect the bloodline. That's why Noah and his family were on that ark. Satan has always gone after the blood because why? The blood destroys him. And the blood was a creation of God for his family. Satan is trying to go after the creation in any way that he possibly can. So blood is very, very important. And also men are very important for that bloodline, to carry on the bloodline from one family to another, generation after generation. Yep. And that's why you have the transgenders. That's why you have a lot of people who cannot have their own children. You have people that are destroying their bodies. They can never, ever reproduce if they have all these different hormones. Can you imagine the body of these young people? Their bodies are so confused chemically and hormonally, it will destroy their lives. I've been a person who's had a chemical issue and a hormonal issue, and I'm telling you, I was very close to death because of it. Because I had no hormones. My hormones were just depleted totally. It was horrifying. The thing is, I knew how my body felt. I can't imagine going through what I went through and then trying to change my gender to something else. I mean, it was already bad enough. I was depleted of what I already had. And so it's literally, it was affecting my stomach. It was affecting neurologically my brain function, memory, all these kind of things. It was affecting every single part of my body. And that's the reason why they're going after that. Hormones affect your entire system. Neurological, digestion, everything. Your nervous system, your adrenals. They go after it because they know if they can go after this, they can go after everything else. They're destroying human bodies, weakening them. That's part of the genocide they're creating. It's also part of mind control.
Yeah, and that's not just the transgender part is a huge part of it, but it's also, like you said, in the water. It's in the food. They've hit us every way possible. Dr. Naomi Wolf talked about that in her Pfizer papers. I heard something that just broke my heart again this weekend, and this is the second time I've heard it 2 weekends in a row. Why Satan is attacking God's children. And the reason that I was told again this weekend is because that's what hurts God the most. That's how wicked Satan is. He wants to go after the single most thing that hurts and breaks God's heart, and that is his pure children. So that's why Satan does it, and that's why Satan goes for the blood.
His creation, yeah. And you got to think of God's creation, how powerful they are. We don't really know how powerful they are because it hasn't been taught. That's why he's got into the churches. He's watered down the gospel. He's watered down the truth, because if people really knew the authority they had as a believer and the authority they have in the blood of Jesus Christ and the authority they have in that name, what God-given authority that we have in this earth to use against our enemy, and that's why it says resist the enemy and he must flee. There's so many things that we have to learn right now, because we're at a very pivotal moment of these two worlds colliding. Mm-hmm. It is going to get very uncomfortable. It's going to get very shaky. It's going to get very bad. And God's people have to wake up. He gave me a prophecy, I think it was last week or week before that, and he was warning the church, don't be lukewarm anymore. You gotta be hot, you gotta be cold, because either way, something is coming that is going to shake up the church and going to shake up this country, and it's going to shake up God's people all around the world. The shaking needs to take place, because the only way we can get this cleansing, look at what God had to do in order to cleanse the earth in Noah's day. God said in this time, he was cleansing the earth, and his glory was going to fill this earth like the waters filled the days of Noah. God said this other Exodus, this other days of Noah, he's saying that he was going to fill this earth with his glory. Well, in order for us to receive that glory, we have to be in right state with him.
Yep.
And we have to be living with him and for him, and not living on our own and doing all these things, because Satan has been using all these social media, phones, entertainment, and the internet, all these different things to distract people. We are living in a time where things are about to drop. And it is very, I don't want to scare anybody, but people have to know about it.
Yeah, we got to unplug. I mean, that's one of the things Satan's done, is just got us so distracted and so numbed out. Noah Harari said it live. He goes, we want to get them on video games, numb them out, drug them out so that they have no free will, and then attack them through AI, eventually taking their free will away. And that's phase 3, is AI, of robots and taking away free will. We're only in phase 2.
Right. And that reminds me of that movie WALL-E. I think it came out in like 2008. My kids were really little back then, but it was about this little robot named WALL-E, and they were on, the earth was destroyed. They were on this like ship up in the, atmosphere, and they were like, it was like basically a big, huge spaceship. And all these people were fat. They were in front of TV screens. They had chairs that floated all around, so they never had to get up and they never had to do anything. They were like these mindless people. And guess what was controlling everything? AI, robots, things like that. So again, you think about it, and I think back on that movie, I'm like, oh, it's just a animated cartoon. It's supposed to be really funny. It was cute because Wally's like extremely adorable. But what the state of the human beings were in the state of the earth, I mean, the earth wasn't even livable. You couldn't even live there anymore. They had to live on this big, huge spaceship. And they dummied them down by constantly having something in their face,
yep,
where they never had to get up and do anything on their own. That's exactly what the globalists want. They put them in these little cutesy animated movies and TV shows, but this is exactly what they want. They want us mindless, and they want us to be able to just do whatever they want us to do, or they just want us to get us out of the way and cause genocide.
Yeah, I notice that when I go to the grocery store. I don't go to the grocery store a lot, but when I go to the grocery, it looks like people are zombies. So many people well overweight. My wife was telling me about a blue zone. You ever heard of blue zone? I think I got it right. Blue zones. There are areas throughout the world where people just do what God wanted them to do, and they live off the land. And like there's a place, I think in Okinawa, I believe it's called a blue zone. They don't even have chairs. They sit in a certain way, and they live to like 105, 106. They're the healthiest on the planet because they don't do what you were just talking about. Their active lifestyles.
Mm-hmm. Stress is a killer too. So one of the things that God is saying is that the enemy was deceiving, distracting, and destroying. AI, all this I'm telling you, even though these are very helpful to have, and I like having them at the same time, if you look around, like at restaurants, everyone is on a phone. It used to be the younger generation were only on their phones, and the older generation were not. My husband and I were just at a restaurant just the other day, and we were sitting there, and the older couple, they're probably in their 70s, 80s. They were both on their phones and not talking to each other almost the entire time that they were eating. They might have said a couple of things, but they were both on their phones, either playing games or watching something the entire time they were there. Satan has used social media, has used the entire internet. Internet's supposed to be a good thing, but he's used it against people because they become mindless. They have no common sense. They don't have a way to think for themselves. Just like, driver's ed. My kids, when they took driver's ed, it was open book. I was horrified at this because I'm like, how are you going to learn anything if you are doing an open book test? I'm sorry. That's the whole point of studying and learning. Well, ever since you had to start paying $400 for driver's ed, because the state used to pay for it. Now parents have to pay for it. People are getting mad because their kid fails. They have to pay another $400. Well, I'm sorry. If your kid failed, your kid failed. Tell them how to study more.
Yeah.
Help them study. But again, it's mindless. If you look at all these different ways, everybody gets a trophy. Everybody, gets always open book sayings. Learning has become and dummied kids down. Well, they do not have common sense. They don't even have book smarts the way they used to. Yes, there are some people that are really good at making sure their kids have those bookmarks and smarts, and they're making sure that they're doing things normally. You take a kid out and tell them, go survive for a couple of days. Even adults, they will not be able to survive without a phone.
No.
They will not be able to survive on the land at all. That's very, very disturbing, because if we had no food and grocery stores were shut down, you have water shut down, you have no electricity, people would die at a faster rate than they would have 100 years ago, because they would have been able to survive 100 years ago. And now, because we're so used to technology and so used to all these different things that we have at a drop of a hat, they don't have that type of survival skills anymore. That's a very thing that the enemies want. That's why they don't want anybody to live off the grid. They don't want people to have guns. They don't like hunters at all.
Nope.
Because hunters, if something happened to the grocery stores, they could still survive on the land because they could go and hunt for their food. They want us to be dependent on them in every way.
And I think Obama said it perfectly from his own heart. I'm perfectly wrong, but he said guns, they want to thrive to their guns, Bible, and their God. Exactly, we do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I want to go over this genocide really quick. I don't know how much time we have. This is really important for people to know. They want a depopulation with this reset. There is no way around it. They want genocide. They've been doing genocide. And COVID was just one way that they were trying to kill people. It was not the only way they've been killing people. It says, my children get used to hearing the word genocide. Many high-profile politicians are guilty of this. It goes far beyond just COVID. The globalists, along with the establishment, have different plans and different ways to cause genocide worldwide. I told you before, the globalist depopulation plan for the Great Reset had already begun. So again, he's not saying that their global reset was something that was going to happen. He said they already started it. Mm-hmm. Many in Washington, including Fauci, were not only aware of this plan, they were in on it. Biological warfare is far worse than most realize. Not only viruses, but also they have designed specific bacteria to poison slowly and to kill people that has been going on for a long time. Bacteria is extremely important. What they're putting in foods and processed foods and that genetically modified food, we have good and bad bacteria in our digestive system. Our digestive system needs both of these bacteria and these types of different levels of bacteria in order to digest your food the right way. Your digestive system is the second brain, basically, to your body. If your digestion is weak, so is the rest of your body. They know this. Part of what they've been doing, they're putting in our foods, is poisoning our foods, but also been messing with our chemical balance in our digestive system is with bacteria. And so he says most chronic illnesses that are plaguing this earth are man-made. One of chronic illnesses are like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, that kind of thing. Things that are chronic, things that are like, so they say that medicine, you have to be on medicine for the rest of your life, and some you're never going to get over, some you might. He said digestive diseases and illnesses have been man-made and man-designed specifically to go after the digestion, knowing the damage it can cause throughout the whole human body. Your enemies put these things in vaccines, your foods, and beverages to cause learning disabilities such as autism, ADD, ADHD. They have caused various issues targeted at children. Here we go again. They're not only targeting children to sacrifice, they're targeting children for learning disabilities and targeting them for their bodies.
Wow.
These types of problems have not just evolved. It's created on purpose, so your enemies have controlled over the human race more easily. They're going after our children in many more ways. ADD, ADHD, and autism, all these type of things are man-made. It is not something that just happened. And people say, well, people were born like that. What happened to that mother? What happened to that family? What have all the vaccines been doing? What all the food has been doing? All these things are being created. Of course, it's all demonic anyway, but it's happening more and more frequently. I've never heard of this many people being diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. That's a lot of what, thank God, RFK Jr. is getting rid of this, is food coloring. Food coloring can cause learning disabilities and hyperactivity disorders. And you got to think of how much food coloring is in everything. Drinks, cereals, candy, all these different things. They're going after children because children are easier to control at a younger state, and it weakens them, so they're not going to be strong enough to fight them back. So our children are targeted in many, many ways.
Yeah, Dr. Naomi Wolf was talking about miscarriages in the FISA papers, baby formula that was all toxic as well, all done on purpose to stop kids from growing up or get them sick right out of the gate. Just pure evil.
And not only is it easier to control people who are really physically sick, it's easier to mentally control them. And it's also easier to kill them off. And they make money off of them at the same time. If you have all these different people have all these different issues, here comes Big Pharma. Well, you have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. Big Pharma is connected to a lot of these things that we're seeing globally right now. Big Pharma, FDA, and it's funny, FDA in this country is so vile and so evil and so disgusting. They allow more things in our food than any other nation combined.
Yep.
And all these other countries, the amount of sugars, the amount of food dyes, the amount of poisons. I mean, I think it was, which was one of my kids' favorite until I found this out and I told them they're not allowed to ever eat it again, was Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah, all the cereals.
Arsenic was found in Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's just a low level. I don't care. It should be no level at all. You could make a cereal without putting arsenic and rat poison in our cereals. Again, all this genetically modified stuff. Everything they're doing to our soil to deplete the nutrition also affects our health. If it affects our health, we go to Big Pharma to help us.
Yep. Big
Pharma it's a major issue, and that's why I'm glad that President Trump, when you did say, and I did see that he was doing something with Big Pharma, he was lowering prescription. I didn't read the whole article or anything. You helped me learn more about what he was doing. He's bringing prescription meds down. One of the things the only thing I saw, why is it? He asked this question. I think it was on Truth. Why is it the same medication you take over to Africa, you take over to other countries, it's next to nothing. You take it over here, it's like 80 times as much money.
Right.
You know what? They go as far beyond that too. It's not just medicine. Same thing with like Verizon. Same thing with our telephone, our phones, our cell phones. We pay these high bills. I don't even want to tell you how much I pay for like our kids and the business and everything for a phone bill from Verizon. You have the same over in another country, it's a fraction of the price for the same amount. Why is the United States always getting the brunt end of everybody else around the world? Because they know we can pay for it.
Yep.
And that's another prophecy that God gave me. I don't think I can get to it today. I'll have to get it next time. God said that they made and designed third world countries on purpose for this great reset.
They did. Yep.
Third world countries were designed, and he talked about Africa specifically, and he talked about the secrets in Africa. He was going to expose what they were hiding in Africa.
Well, just what goes into food. I mistakenly we had some people over a long time ago, and I got some chips that you get from a store. Just chips that are in every single store. You know, I forgot about it. They were in there. My wife was in Ohio, and I found them in a back thing. They were there for like 6 months. 6 months. And they still were, you could still eat them. Where we have a local Mexican place that makes their shells, or that makes their flour every day for chips. Those will go stale in one day. That shows you the difference on how much junk they put in them. It's not even food.
And you have a thing about apples. If you go to an apple orchard, the apples are about this small and they are dull. And if you bite into it, it turns brown almost immediately. If you go to the store, they're glossy, they're shiny. You could get a Honey Crisp is our favorite. You can get it about this big or bigger. You can eat them in 20 minutes. They're still not brown.
Yeah.
It's genetically modified. And then, of course, like, I know my husband and my kids like it. I won't eat them. You got to think of like cotton candy grapes. What are they doing to these like fruits to make them taste like cotton candy? What are they doing to make these like foods taste and look so much different? We don't get the nutritional value. That's why so many people are dying now more than they were 100 and some years ago. We're not getting the nutritional value in our bodies that we truly need. Why? Because they want genocide. And then until you die, they slowly poison you and slowly killing you. But until you die, then they can make enough money off of you because of Big Pharma.
Exactly. You're a cash cow for them, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad. And one of the things that also God said, as we're talking about this, I don't have it up right now, but he talks about how cancer, they have a cure for cancer. They know what to do about cancer, and they refuse to do anything about it because cancer fundraising and these cancer societies and everything, they make so much money. So they also don't want people to know about it. And I want to tell people too, ivermectin is proving right now that you can use that to fight off cancer because most cancers are parasites, and ivermectin kills parasites. So now I don't know about all cancers, but I know they're doing more and more research that ivermectin can help people who are fighting cancer.
Yeah, and if you combine ivermectin with fenben, that's like one of the perfect cocktails to really knock it out. So we've had that for a long time, but there's no money in it. That's why they're not going to push it. That's the sick reason.
Yeah, and because now ivermectin is we're able to buy and purchase it again, pray over what you are buying, because if people, they're going to get involved in that because they're going to try to make money off of it. That's why even with supplements, I'm a big natural person. I go to holistic doctors. I like more natural doctors, but the enemies are getting more into these supplements. So a lot of these supplements that you're buying don't have a lot of stuff in them. They've watered them down. They've basically made them to nothing, or they're adding crap in them that you should not be eating and not be taking. Again, to make that natural supplement that should have been good for you, it's making it not as nutritional for you. So you have to be very careful where you're buying these things from because they're trying to get in every single thing they can to destroy people's bodies.
You destroy and also make a buck if they can chalk it down, especially when you buy stuff like that on Amazon. If it's liquid, I've heard all kinds of stories about putting extra liquid in it that's not good, and also the ingredients are not right in the chalk. That's why Dr. Sherwood, when he does his stuff, he measures every ounce of it to make sure it's the best of the best.
Yeah, you have to be very careful right now. And that's why I tell people, I'm not saying not to eat anything. Go pray over your food. Bless your food. We have that power to do that. God said we can do that. And again, we pray over our food. I don't care if we're in a restaurant. I don't care if we're at home. We pray over our food. We pray over and bless it. That it nourishes our body the way God designed it to nourish our body. Our enemies want to deplete our bodies of nutrients of all kinds to cause all these different havocs. Why I think there's more people in fear, anxiety, depression, because if you don't have chemically balanced, because you don't have the right nutrients in your body, it affects your mind. It affects your mental state. So they put people, and then all of a sudden you have all these people on all these different anti-anxieties and antidepressants, and they're, all these people are seeing psychologists and psychiatrists because of what's going on in their body. They're at it in all different ways, and that's why we have to always say, and I've been praying this over my body because my body's been attacked in several different ways and several different times where I've almost died. And one of the things I keep proclaiming life. And another thing that I say, I'm free in my spirit, I'm free in my soul, I'm free in my body, I'm free socially, I'm free financially to freely serve God. God wants us to be able to freely serve him. That was part of the Exodus before, and this is part of the greater Exodus now. God wants us free in our spirit, in our soul, which is your mind, will, and emotions, and your physical body. God wants you set free. So I want people to start declaring that and decreeing that over their body and commanding that everything that Satan stole, that he has to get back, because God said in his word in Proverbs 6, when the enemy's caught, he's got to give it back. They're caught stealing, poisoning our foods, destroying our nutrients every way they possibly can, and God's saying they have to restore it back.
That's right. And you look at something as simple as praying over your food. You think we're just giving him glory for this food. It goes much deeper. As you said, we're literally we're asking for his protection on this food. Did we ever think we would need that in our life? No, until these last few years. But breakthrough's coming. It's not all lost. We've got the greatest revival in the history of the world coming soon. Breakthrough's coming. Go in his shalom.